But let's begin tonight in mid-Canterbury, where we can reveal that New Zealand's only large-scale American-style intensive grain-fed feedlot farm is non-compliant, and has been for more than 3 months. Located in Ashburton, we reported on the feedlot back in August, you might remember. Cattle are herded together for months at a time and fed grains so that they can be fattened up faster than they otherwise would be grazing grass. There was widespread outrage from you, our listeners at the time. Many of you said this kind of operation did not belong in this country. So we asked for copies of the feedlot's environmental reports, and when Environment Canterbury finally gave them to us, it also admitted that they're severely lacking. Where there should be detailed reports about water quality and monitoring and management practices, there was instead nothing. And months later, ECAN says the feedlot's still yet to fix the issues, but no enforcement action has been taken. Zach Fleming investigates.
A slice of America in Canterbury. Up to 19,000 cattle farmed on less than 1 square kilometre, the only feedlot of its kind in the country, and it's not compliant. Missing from its most recent environmental report,
annual volumes of manure that they're applying per hectare and its location on site, groundwater quality, monitoring of bores, and current and proposed management practices for the feedlot.
The Ansco Foods 5-star feedlot has been there since 1991 and has been required to submit an environmental report since 2005. Janine Holland, Environment Canterbury Zone Lead for Ashburton, which is where the feedlot is, wouldn't say whether there have been issues in the past, and despite being fully versed on the issues, she wouldn't relay the excuse given.
I'm unclear as to why we've got some data omissions in this case. I mean, that's really for the company to respond to.
It's been, 3 or 4 months since they omitted that data, though. They haven't told you yet why they omitted it?
Well, we are working with them to sort those issues, and really that's for 5-star beef to comment on.
But they haven't told you why they omitted it yet?
Honestly, I can't comment on that.
Why not?
I simply don't have that information.
ECAN describes the feedlot as technically non-compliant because it says there's no evidence of environmental non-compliance. But how can there be evidence of environmental non-compliance when the evidence is missing?
A red flag should be coming up somewhere when this kind of report comes across a compliance officer's desk.
That's freshwater ecologist Mike Joy.
What's completely lacking in the report is any methodology. Any freshwater scientists who looked at that would just walk away shaking their heads going, well, we don't know what's happening here. This report is so lacking in detail that we can't be sure what's happening.
So for the data provided, how was it measured? We don't know. Ansco declined to be interviewed. And then who checks it's correct? Nobody. It's all self-reported.
The onus is on the consent holder to prove their compliance. It is a user-pay system. We've got nearly 20,000 consents that we monitor across Canterbury. In terms of if you're talking about their water samples, that is for the company to provide.
Most of the bores had values that were in excess of the guideline values. A couple of them were 2 or 3 times the World Health Organization limits for drinking water. So you could glean a little bit from it, but there was just, you could drive a truck through the gaps in the methodology.
So no methodology, no identical tests from ECAN to make sure the ones provided by the feedlot are accurate. And then there are repeated instances of copy and paste mistakes in the reports, some very basic. The date on last year's contents page, for example, incorrectly says 2016.
There's not a lot of effort put into this, is there? I mean, it looks like it's being skim-read, really.
I would say that 5-star beef are improving their performance in that area. It's been signalled by us that we need more attention to the reporting, and that's the process that we're going through at the moment.
Last year, the feedlot's effluent pond, Poo Pond, overflowed in July. That's a breach of consent conditions. No enforcement action was taken, though. Instead, ECAN made changes to allow it to happen again.
It's a temporary measure. It's part of the action plan that we are undertaking with 5-star beef, which will be reviewed in December of this year.
So they can overflow their effluent pond until December?
They have the capacity to discharge more effluent to land as a temporary measure, and we'll be reviewing that in December of this year.
Mike Joy says that's unacceptable.
That response of, instead of enforcing, to just change the consent conditions, indicates to me that the environment is being put second to keeping this business happy.
ECAN said it prefers to work with people rather than issue penalties for non-compliance. It couldn't confirm if any enforcement action will be taken should the feedlot still be non-compliant next year.
We are working through remediating the data emissions and the other information that we need and sorting those things within an appropriate time frame, and then we'll be able to identify whether we need to take any further action.
ANZCO declined to be interviewed, but in a statement its GM of Livestock and Agriculture, Grant Bunting, disputed ECAN's version of events, saying it has addressed its monitoring issues and that sample results are within consent parameters and its non-compliance notice will expire at the end of the year. For Checkpoint, Zach Fleming.